All right, everybody. My guest is Joe Pontillo. I've been trying to have, the people that I've met online whose work I've enjoyed. Joe's one of those folk, comedian from New York City. New York City. And I know that up there it's been kind of wild. I know you've been on a lot of shows, and I'm pretty sure everybody has asked you exactly the same questions. How's it been in New York with the pandemic, Joe? What's going on in New York, Joe? How's it been, Joe?
I wish more people would have asked me that question, to be honest.
It's,
I feel left out.
it's just a weird thing because it's such a big thing that you almost, it's almost like you cannot get rid of it. You cannot not talk about it, no matter what. Anyway, it's just too big.
That's right. Yeah, it's interesting, and I feel like, especially in relation to stand-up comedy, all of us have like collectively gone through this thing now.
Mm.
So I feel like there's this new viewpoint and this new like, oh, we're a bit more connected now, even though it's already starting to wear off and everyone's starting to hate each other again very quickly.
That's the,
Yeah.
that's the way I like it. I like that normalcy. You ain't nothing. I feel great. Everything's back.
Right. Well, especially like in the last year, and like, sorry to like jump right into it. I feel like because of everything that happened, between like the pandemic and like all the economic things, and then like Black Lives Matter and protesting against the police. I feel like all of that used to be not fringe, but like stuff that like there were things like I wanted to talk about on stage that I felt like every single audience like it would be hit or miss. Now I feel like you can bring up anything like that and people will be like, oh yeah, this thing that just happened, this thing that we were all a part of. So as a comedian who's always wanted to talk about more legitimate stuff on stage, it's kind of been very good for me in a way.
Well, I'm going to do, when I come back and start performing again, I'm going to do about 90 minutes of what's it like to be married and the difference between black people and white people. I'm going to do about
you, you know what's crazy? Women.
it's like, I used to always sit in the back and watch that crap. And I'm sitting there going, I know technically I'm one of the comics and I shouldn't want to do this, but I'm looking for tomatoes.
Yes, you know what? Tomatoes don't even get the job done anymore. What we need is those Nerf guns. Just those are very distracting. A tomato you can riff on very easily.
Yeah, it looks like I'm bleeding up here, bro.
Now that these comedy clubs have like those sneeze guards on the stage, I feel like those are perfect for tomatoes, though.
Oh yeah, it's like we like that scene in was it the Blues Brothers, rolling, 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 and glass bottles breaking off, smashing off of the fence in front of them. But I was always curious about that because we all have, like you were saying, we all have this common thing. Because you're a comic from New York, I'm originally from Philadelphia, so
Right.
there's ridiculous amounts of similarities between all of us on the Eastern Seaboard. But you go to different areas of the country and they all have their different culture. And everybody, I remember guys coming to town and basically doing kind of a Mad Libs thing. You know what I mean? They'd have a little notepad. And, what's the tough section of town? Okay. All right.
Oh God.
And I'm sitting there going, yeah, get away from me.
That reminds me of going up to like Plattsburgh, New York, in a place where like they shouldn't have comedy,
Yeah.
but it was two sold out shows, but they were not the sharpest crowds. But somebody gave me a tip after the first show, and they were like, "Oh, you got to bring up." I can't quite remember the name, but it sounded like it was like Weebletown or something. It was like a section of town that they called like Weebletown or Weebleville, and I forget what I even said about it. But on the next show, like I referenced it, and like the crowd went nuts, and it was like by far my biggest laugh, and everything else was not that good. And I was just like, okay, well, I see what this crowd wants, but I'm not doing 30 minutes on Weebletown or wherever it was.
Yeah, well, now that I know, eventually I'm probably going to wind up there, so I got to work on my Weebletown hunk.
There's one in every state.
It's really weird because you go places, and if you don't, sometimes if you go to the city, and you don't pronounce the name of the city correctly, you got 300 people correcting you.
Yes, I was almost run out of Newark, Delaware because of that. I'll never forget that one.
Yeah, they warned me about that one because I had a week of shows there, and they warned me about that. Oh, you better say Newark, bro. Trust me, you need to
You
say
say Newark, you're dead.
And
So,
hey,
and I wanted to just be like, you guys are Delaware. Who are you kidding? Like, come on.
yeah, it's like, first of all, there's 8 of you.
Right.
You know, and another one is if you go up and if you play Pennsylvania and go to Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Right, a place I've been many times, but I feel like it gets pronounced differently every time I'm there.
Yeah, you know, how did you like shows in Lancaster?
I used to love it. Like the last time I was there was literally just before everything shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there was just a different vibe, and I don't know.
It used to be at the Italian Villa East, right?
Yes, and now it's in. Well, it bounced around a couple. It started in this one hotel, went into like a restaurant downtown, and then it was back in the hotel. Yeah, and it was just a weird vibe. Like the Friday night show, the guy was like all freaked out about coronavirus, and I'm like, I don't think you guys have a lot to worry about in Lancaster. Little did I know, everybody did.
Yeah, for those of you listening, it was a club called the Italian Villa East, which was kind of a comedy club and a motor lodge, held about a 220, 230 when it was full or something like that.
Oh yeah, something like that.
And Dave ran it. Dave Rinaldi ran it, and it was up the street from Dutch Wonderland.
Which is, I vacationed there twice as a kid, so it's very funny when you return to those places as an adult. And I was like, I came here with my family.
Yeah, it's like, did you shrink it?
You're right, exactly. Well, I think I went once in like the 80s when I was very young, and then in the 90s when I was a little older, and I think they had it at a water park by like 1995 or something. So it was like, yeah, this is just like the Amish with their slides and their water and their log flumes.
It's really, yeah, it's just, because it's really weird. It's like, it's cute. It's like a cute little place, but it looks like when you go to it, it looks like it was made to be shot in someone's small budget movie. And
I think it was actually supposed to be a set for a horror movie, and then they were like, this is too scary, and they turned it into a theme park.
Yeah, throw some water in there, Jack. Throw a little water in there, don't scare everybody. Now, what are you? You're at what, year 15 now in stand up?
Yeah, 15, about a little over 15.
Yeah. So I mean, so you started after the comedy boom.
Yeah, which was great, and just before, like, I guess it was kind of a second comedy boom, but it wasn't real. I guess just before the internet made comedy very mainstream, I guess. So I started in like this very in-between time. Like YouTube didn't really exist yet. There was no Facebook except for college kids or, TikTok or anything. YouTube was weird because, I was on it in the very beginning. And in the old days, you would just post videos, and no matter what it was, you would get like thousands of views. And it very quickly became oversaturated. And now, I'm still sitting on less than 300 subscribers somehow. So I post a video and get 40 views and an email from YouTube saying this has been flagged for suspicious content.
It's like, so
copyright.
Yeah, that's one of the weirdest things is when like Disney or some big giant company flags your content and going, you have nothing else to do, really?
Yeah. Well, the best is, so I recorded a special, and I also have an album version of it. And I have a couple of clips of the special on my YouTube page. But the company that put out my album keeps putting in copyright claims. for the videos of my stand-up. I'm like, this is me. I own all this. Please stop bothering me. So they're doing good work. They're cracking down on copyright people and fake news, whatever it is.
That's one of those things where you go, everything can't be automated. You know what I mean? Joe Pontillo is. We're going to let you know that Joe Pontillo does not like you playing his. But I'm Joe. Yeah, but Joe doesn't like it. No, I'm Joe.
Well, it couldn't possibly be the same person. Like, it would just take them like 2 minutes of research to realize I'm the same person.
or as long as it takes to, look at the picture.
Exactly.
It's like, hey, that's the guy, and that's the guy, and this is the guy. Okay, we'll just now shut the hell up and back off because we sound like jackasses.
You've created the technology to be able to flag such a thing, but not the technology to realize that it's the same person.
This is true. Yeah, because it's just a weird thing because when you put things out there, you never really know what's going to happen. Because I've seen people that literally had like 8 minutes of stand up, and they do a couple sketches online. It gets 27 quadrillion views, and then they go out and try to do stand up comedy with 8 minutes.
Right. And that's good. It's a good business like that.
And it must be stopped.
Exactly. The pandemic didn't do enough.
Yeah, because it's just a weird thing. Now, 15 years ago, you pick up the microphone for the first time. Now, you picked it up at an interesting time. You said yourself that you were kind of in between comedy boom and the technology picking up. So when I started in '86, the comedy boom was happening.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the second I picked up a microphone, I walked up, there's 200 people out there. It was like, it was too easy. But then when you came along, it had been worn out, saturated, and then you had to start basically from scratch again. What made you do it? Because it didn't look the same when you started 10 years after me.
No, but I also think that my perception of comedy I had learned from Seinfeld or Drew Carey, like Chappelle or people like that, and I was like, oh yeah, so it's kind of just like you just get out there and perform, and then someone will discover you very quickly. Like, that was legit my thought process. Mm-hmm. And I went to school with the Jim Brewer's niece and nephew. Mm. So they were my guy. I was like, how did your uncle start doing comedy? It was, he just reached out to the local club and did an open mic night. Though I did, before I did that, I tried comedy once early on, when I was 19 in college, which was a horrible story, which I've actually turned into a bit recently, where they had a comedy contest. And I was like, this is it. This is how it starts. And it was 30 students, and I went up 24th, and half the crowd had left. But we actually did the crowd. Somebody got a bagel thrown at them. Oh. They told an offensive joke. First victim of cancel culture. And, I'd always wanted to do it. So I'd always wandered around my, parents' basement telling jokes to myself. I could do this. I could go on stage and be fine. I don't need to write anything down. And totally different when you get up there and start talking. And then you don't get a laugh. You don't get a laugh again. One person laughs at a joke, the other 20 people don't. You're like, I don't know. And then you freeze. And for some reason, I decided to salvage my first set by trying to fart into the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was so frazzled that I put the mic towards my ass and made a fart noise with my mouth.
All right.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, good night, folks. And I didn't try it again for a year and a half after that. So
the funny thing is nowadays the bagel comes flying 15 years later.
Yes, and that fart joke might have worked today because somebody would have filmed it. It would have went viral, and then I would have been the fart guy. But in 2003 or whatever that was.
You know what I'm telling you right now? There's nobody doing it now, Joe. I'm telling you right now. You get on TikTok. You put
I should just recreate that whole thing and
and complete, but this time you have to do a little take a little artistic license and have someone throw the bagel at you.
I'm actually going to get one of those pitching machines, and instead of baseballs, I'm going to fill it with bagels. That one comes flying at me every 10 seconds.
Because I see it, but that is a really that's one of the. I'll be honest, that's one of the most unique stories I've had. Not just on the show, but just talking to other comics. Usually it's uneventful but horrible. In a way, people go up on stage and just like you said, they think, well, I make my friends laugh, man. Right? I make
I kill it in conversation.
I destroy, bro. So obviously I'm going to walk on stage in front of people that paid money and expect a certain level of proficiency.
Right, but like comedy club audiences are so judgmental. They can be judgmental. Sometimes they're just like, whoever goes on stage, we're laughing at. But other times they're like, sell me, Like, we're getting off stage one night and some guy goes up to me, he goes, when you walked on stage, I was like, this guy's not going to be funny.
Well,
then you start talking. You were funny. And I'm like, you judged my whole set before I even said a word?
Yeah, I already hated you. But then you made me like you.
I'm like, God, man, no vibes.
Because I was telling some people with some young comics I was hanging out with, and I was explaining to them. I said, "Listen, they thought that they had 30 minutes, and you and I both know that 30 minutes is 11 minutes, right? So because they had been places where friends and family, their performing experience consisted of their comedy class and a couple of shows in front of their friends at school. And I was trying to explain to them, I was like, listen, your 30 minutes is probably 10 minutes. Because when you apply the pressure of people not laughing, it crushes, it just takes your material and crushes it down 2/3. And I said, whenever you memorize your material, always time the amount of time it takes you to actually say the words. That's how much material you have. There's the joke 4 minutes, you have 4 minutes. You probably thought it was 9 minutes. No, it's 4 minutes. And okay, buddy. And I'm sitting in the back, and it's literally like watching a video. You ever see those videos online where you don't really want to watch them when you see like a puppy running through traffic? Because that's what it looked like. Flop, sweat, chalky mouth, wrapping the microphone cord around his arm.
Oh, I love when comics do that. It's like, are they going to get out of that? Just stuck on stage now.
Every time I see that, I think that the comic is going to do. My closing bit is a Harry Houdini escape act where
I may look like I'm trapped here, folks, but you're actually the ones who are trapped.
Because everybody has I usually get, and you've been around a long time, you probably get one of two stories. I killed them or I bombed. But I always ask you, what did the second and third comedy sets feel like? Because the second and third ones are usually the ones where you basically get the baseball bat to the balls from the audience.
Right. Well, let's see. The first time was the fart. The second time, which I count as more like the official starting of comedy, also was bad, but I at least did more time before running out of gas and being like, ha! And a bunch of my friends had come to see me, which of course was terrible. Some of them never saw me again. Then that third time of doing comedy, that's when I was like, oh, okay. Getting laughs. Remember somebody said something in the audience. Oh, it was a friend of mine said something because somebody was filming me. And one of my friends decided to whisper into the camera as a joke, I hate this. And I heard it and I thought it was some like old lady in the crowd. And I looked at her and I was like, you hate this? And the crowd. But it was like, I went from like having no confidence on stage to some confidence on stage by the third show. So that's kind of how that went.
I could just imagine if you didn't hear it, but it still got on camera, and you're sitting there going, "Oh, this is gonna, I killed. This is gonna be great."
Yeah.
7 minutes in, this sucks.
Yeah. That's I feel like, okay, so I've been doing it, 15 years, whatever, almost 16. And I feel like it was only maybe within the last 5 to 7 years that I can listen to every set that I've recorded. Whereas in the old days, I remember just being like, play the tape as I'm like driving home, listening to it. I'm like only half listening to it. I remember so many more laughs. Where'd they go?
One of the worst times I started at 17 was listening to the micro cassette recorder in the earphones, listening to yourself bomb on the train. You listen to yourself and you're going, ooh.
Yeah. Gonna delete this one right away.
I was sitting there going, I wish I had more cassette tapes so I can stomp this one to make sure I don't accidentally listen to this thing again in the future. But that is but how when you're up when you're in the city, when you go to Manhattan to do your sets, when you're performing, what are you seeing now? I mean, have you seen a big change in what the type of comic or the style of comedy that you're seeing in the city now as opposed to maybe say 5 years ago?
Well, see, now it's weird because, pre-pandemic, like a typical New York City comedy club audience was probably like 75% tourism. So like, and not just like people from all around the country, like people from all around the world. So you were like on any given night performing for like a crowd that was like, 50% European, 20% Australian, a couple Asians and like South Africans mixed in, and Canada, and then like, oh, here's a family from Jersey. That's that's your closest audience. So now it's now tourism's like slowly coming back, but it's not what it was, and probably won't be for a long time. So now you're dealing more with like a New York City audience, which could go either way. Like they're either open and receptive and like chill, or they're just like drunk and thinking they're the show and not you. It's kind of the two ways it could go.
What would you consider to be your home club? Because people usually have a home club. Do you have a club that you consider your home club?
I guess I really don't right now. Probably for a while, maybe it was like Broadway Comedy Club and Greenwich Village Comedy Club, just because that's where I would, sometimes run shows. And also a lot of people I knew had shows there, and I was passed at those clubs, yada, yada. But now I feel like more of a free agent. So I kind of really don't have a home. It sounds sick.
No, it's real. No, it's weird because you said, so you had your home club initially was in the Village. Did that being in the Village, did it inform your stand up to the point where, because sometimes when you play a specific area and that area has a vibe and you go someplace else, you have to make a change. Did it have any effect on your style at all?
I don't think so. Here's what I would say my third home back in the day was all the Long Island comedy clubs, like Governors and Brooklyn Squires. But I don't really work there anymore. Something changed. But, because not early in my career, it was like 5-6 years in, I got passed at those clubs. And that's where I started. So getting past there, that was like, oh, my God, this is like a huge accomplishment for me. And I'm from Long Island originally. That's always hard to admit. And so, like, to me, for a while, those were home clubs. And those, like, I feel like I went a lot, like, I got to, like, the top of the food chain, at least performance-wise in the city, much quicker than like doing Long Island or like road rooms. Cause like, you know, in the city, I feel like there was more stage time. So you figure out more fast, like, oh, okay, here's how I'm going to get good on this show, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. But then other places you're like, you go from being like the first or second best comedian to like, oh, now I'm like the sixth best comedian on the show. Because I'm working with all these like veterans who've been doing it for like 20, 30 years. And it makes you work a lot harder. And, you know, and also audiences outside of New York City are not trying to be terrible, but on a different level intellectually. So you have to cater your material to like that. And, you know, not that you're dumbing it, you know, it takes a while to get to a point where you're not dumbing it down. You're just telling your regular act differently to where everybody can enjoy it. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I just want to take this time to let everybody in the audience know that I disagree with Joe. I think every audience is incredible. To hell with them. Joe sucks, and I think all the audiences outside of the East Coast are brilliant people. They're incredible. And sorry, man, I got to throw you under the bus, bro. Joe sucks. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I think that people outside of the North and Northeastern corridor are very, very, very intelligent audiences. And I, as Anthony Thomas, think you're incredible and love you. Thank you. All right, I'm sorry, bro. I have no choice. I got to throw you under the bus, man. I got to be out there too.
I didn't hear any of that. No.
I grew, the club that I started out in was kind of a short, with they suffered fools not at all. You had about 4 to 6 seconds to get to it, or they'd beat you down. So, you know, 'cause when you leave this area of the country and you go other places, even if you go to towns in Edinburgh and Ville, right, and you've played those, either they just like, what do you do? Who cares? You're from Philadelphia, you're from New York, you're from Jersey. So what? You think you're better than us? F you. You know, you know, I remember we were doing a place. I told the guy, and the guy, because I was at the time in the 80s, I was going to New York all the time. So he thought I was a New York comic. And I'm going, whatever you do, just say my name, read my credits. Don't say where I'm from. Please, I got to be up there an hour. Don't say where I'm from. The MC, yeah, she's from Philadelphia. Boo.
Yes.
You know, it sounds like, oh God, I'm from Philadelphia. You know, and sometimes you go, he's from Philadelphia. Oh, he's from a big city. This must be great. And you never know which one you're going to get until you get up there. You know, it's just a pain in the butt, but sometimes it's fantastic though.
Yeah, like you know, I honestly, one of my favorite things about comedy is traveling. And I was mainly just making fun of Long Island, not all audiences outside of New York. But actually, I was in Tennessee for the first time. And because a guy I know moved down there and now he's booking shows. And the first thing he said is just like, you know, look, they just, and it was exactly what you just said about like, they think New Yorkers think they're better than them. And I'm like, all right, I don't try to say that. I don't try to, you know, and I don't like, you know, I know sometimes they're like, oh, this person's from New York. That's great. But other times, like, they don't care. Like, they just want you to go up there and just hit them with jokes right away. You know, like I would think they'll be able to tell I'm not from around there, but if I'm funny, like, they shouldn't care. That's kind of how, you know, and I'm here to entertain everybody, no matter what state they're in, what city, you know, how they vote. No, I don't know.
Yeah. And that's the weird thing is when you go to a place where it's really obvious before you open your mouth, the moment you show up, they look at you and they're going, I already know you're not from this state. I'm looking at you right now. I don't need to see your license plate. I'm looking at the way you're dressed because I guarantee you dress like a dude from New York.
You know, I've tried not to, but yeah, I guess I probably end up doing it by accident.
Yeah, and I dress like a guy. I've lived in New York, and I'm from Philly. I probably, if I'm walking down the street, I'm probably dressed very similar to the way you're dressed, right? So
Right.
because we're East Coast dudes, that's what we do. That's right. A special shout out to the rest of the country. That's how we dress. Deal with it. So
I
right.
will not wear socks with sandals. I will not wear shorts in January with a sweatshirt.
It's like, it's like when I used to get people that would see the way Jerry Seinfeld would dress on the TV program, and they would go, "Do you East Coast guys actually dress like that?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
When I go on stage in other states, I make them play the Seinfeld like boom, 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 so they know what's up. So they know what's up.
It's just if you've traveled, obviously this is for people that are listening, the audience, because we're both comedians, we both traveled. If you get in, say, and this is something I would suggest to audience people in the audience. I'm sure you all travel on an airplane. I get it. It's faster. I get it. I know you travel on a train. I get it. If you really want to see what the damn country looks like, and I'm not just talking about the landscape, I'm talking about to watch the cultures change. I imagine that's what it's like when you travel through Europe, right?
Yeah, I would think.
You're watching because I remember getting off the train. We got off the bus in St. Louis, and everybody had these outfits on, and they're looking at us like, you ain't from around here, right? And no, we're from the East Coast. Apparently, you guys like a lot of color in your clothing. It's like, it was so many, and you just travel around and you just see different things. That's one of the pluses, because you just said you love to travel, and that's one of the fun things about traveling. You literally get to watch in your own country, get to watch the cultures change every 300 miles.
Right, which is crazy, which is why I've always kind of looked at this country as being like a lot of like almost little countries in one country claiming to be united. Like, yeah, we're all one country, but also there's like 37 different versions of us.
That's people always make fun of sports and say sports aren't important, but what I like about the sports is it's the best way to attack someone from a different area without killing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
it's like under normal circumstances, sports wise, I should hate your guts.
Yeah, like there was a time where I was like, oh, I'm just supposed to hate Philly, right? Because of the Eagles and the Phillies. Like, I hate them so much. And then you go there and you're like, oh, it's actually a cool city. I don't know why I judged an entire group of based on their sports teams.
I remember the first time as a comic, I pulled into Manhattan. I'm like, yeah, man, fuck these people, man. New York ain't shit. And I got there and I'm like, this is pretty much exactly what I just left.
Right.
It's like this is the same stuff, just the hats they have like an NY on them instead of a big P, but other than that, this is the same crap that I just left. It's exactly the same, and that's a weird thing, but like I said, it's the best way to have some good healthy hatred for the people close to you.
Yeah, that's and then the internet cultivates all that, where it's like, oh, hey, get mad at these people, root for this team you don't like.
It's the weirdest thing too is, as comics, I've only gotten really bum rushed and attacked online. I've been on Twitter for 12 years, apparently, because that thing where they go, how long have you been on Twitter? And then they put that number up there to tell you how long you've been there. And I'm going, I don't even want to admit that I've been there that long, damn it. But, right.
Yeah, that just makes me be like, maybe I should delete this one and start a new one.
Yes. But I've only been attacked like 3 times where people just came and just get him. And this was before, and keep in mind, this is before people were quote woke unquote. This is before that.
Right.
And I'm sitting there going, so if I F up now, I'm really going to get it.
Yeah, me and you both, I think, probably joined Twitter around the same time, and it was definitely not woke there for a solid 5 years. Oh
my God. Have you ever gone back and looked at some of your old tweets? And I was like, I want to see, did I say anything really bad? Oh,
yeah. You want to, and I'm like, and when I got on Twitter, I was like, 26 or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading the stuff I wrote. I'm like, was I 26 or 16? Like, who the hell is this? Like, I want to just beat myself up. I'm like, I sound like such a, like an immature, like teenager, just being like, "Whoa, the internet! I'm gonna say whatever dumb shit comes to my mind." Boom, and I feel like it was almost designed for that.
You're making me feel extra bad now because I'm 52.
You're right.
Which means I jumped on Twitter at 40.
But the whole world was like that. It was just a mind. It didn't even matter what age you were. Like everybody was like that. That's why like the whole like people trying to like cancel each other for old tweets thing is so stupid, because then like you look at the person doing the canceling's old tweets and they're just as bad, if not worse.
Isn't that the funniest thing when someone cancels someone and then people go back and look at their stuff and it's just as bad? It's like
this person was literally admitting to crime.
It's like, you said a curse word, bro, and then you go back. Didn't it say that you were skeet shooting puppies? No, but that was a different time and place. He said the F word. You skeet shooted puppies and kittens, bro. Anyway, I thought it was deleted. Have you found anything bad? I mean, how bad? I mean, was it? The worst thing I found was bad, like really, really badly written jokes, which was embarrassing because I was already a good comedian for a long time. But I refused to put good stuff that I would use in my act on Twitter. That's never going to happen.
Yeah. And like, it's funny because I feel like some people throughout the years have gotten mad at me because they were like, "Is this your act? This is what you're putting on Twitter?" And I'm like, no, I don't even know what I'm putting on Twitter. It's a lot of like, whatever's happening in the moment, or like whatever's happening in the news. Once in a while, something from Twitter, I'll be like, that might actually be a good stage joke. Mm-hmm. But that's like, one out of every like 200 tweets, maybe.
Yeah. Now, when you did a podcast though.
I did for a while. Mm-hmm. It still technically exists. I'm just not sure what I'm going to do with it.
But how did you feel about, because in Twitter you're working in short form. Obviously in the beginning it was 140 characters. Now it's 280. Now how long are your podcast episodes?
My podcast episodes were from anywhere between like 45 minutes to like an hour and 20, depending.
So, okay. So basically the standard length of a good podcast. So now when you got to fill the podcast with material on a weekly basis, and we're going to say an hour, but you also have to write jokes for your act, and you come up with a good premise, and this chunk of material is going to be a good 20 minutes of material for your podcast and maybe 7 minutes in an act. And you're sitting there with that idea. What are you doing?
I'm not sure. I guess I run it on the podcast and then go from there. I'm like, am I going to do something else with this, or is this just who I am? The thing with podcasts though is like, if I prefer when I had a guest. Mm-hmm. Because it used to just me and my co-host, and my co-host would kind of just let me go off the rails, and I would just keep talking, and it was as if he wasn't even there. But then which was fine at first, because the reason I started the podcast is I wanted to tell stories about comedy that I, eventually ended up working into like my set, and then becoming part of what I did with my taping. So I did like 6-7 episodes of that. Then I started bringing in guests, and when you have a guest, like the back and forth between you two, like fills the hour almost easily. Mm-hmm. But then when you go back to not having the guests, then you're like, all right, we're just talking. Let's see where this goes. And then, this is getting repetitive. I feel like we said this last episode.
You're having a bunch of podcast episodes. Is kind of like doing like I don't know if they still do this now, but we used to do 3 shows on Saturdays. So that third show on Saturday, you're on the stage the whole time going, did I say that already? I think. Did I do that bit? Because you used to do it too. And then you go someplace and there's 3 shows and the third show is 12:45 and you go, I think I said that already. I was just
Was that this show or was that the first show?
oh my God, did I say? And then, it's like, and it's the same thing with the pods. Because after a while, if you're cranking them out every week, you're so busy getting to the next one, you didn't sit there and memorize what you wrote on the last one.
No, I can't even remember like 10 minutes after recording it. Then you go back and edit it, and I'm like, I'm not gonna listen to the whole thing. I'll just like skim it.
Oh yeah. Oh God. I'll never listen to it. Because that's why I usually pay so much attention during the course of what I'm recording that it's like I don't need to do that.
I would skim it just to either be like, was there something we needed to take out, or if like I didn't already have like the title for the episode in mind, I would like skim it to try to find like, oh, what was like the main theme here.
Yeah, that's all you're getting, especially in an hour. When you started doing your podcast in the beginning, were you one of those people that sit there that would literally scrub through and pull out the ums and the breaths?
The ums and the breaths, looking at my watch. Well, that was more stage, but it's, you talk about what you want to talk about, and then you like look down and you're like, oh crap, it's only been 20 minutes. Now what? And then you start having the back and forth. Or there's other things you want to talk about, but like in the heat of the moment, you kind of forget. And then you just kind of like go on this weird like transitional thing that hopefully gets to something. That's what happened after like maybe like 30 episodes. I was like, damn, I gotta not do this every week.
I can relate. I can relate because you're on this podcast. You're in the early 100s by the time this one comes out. And on my original podcast that I still do, that podcast is just me talking. The next episode will be 415.
Wow.
So believe me, I understand what it's like. Did I talk about that already? Because did I cover that shit?
I'm actually also recording this, and I'm going to release this as one of my podcast episodes too. My podcast intro.
Yeah.
Hope that's cool.
Well, of course, there's no problem. Get the lawyers on the phone. We're gonna have to take care of this guy. Get the lawyers on there. Get the lawyers on him. Get the Jacoby and Myers on him. Get them in there. Now I want to ask you about you've done Gotham Comedy Live, MTV. When you started to move into that direction, how were they regarding? What did they? Because I know sometimes when you do television, there's somebody following you around and pulling chunks out of your act. Don't say this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. Did you put that together yourself, or did you have somebody on top of you going over your set?
So when I did Gotham Comedy Live, which is a very funny story because, first of all, that was like a 2-year process. So I sent a tape, and I didn't have anybody sending it for me. It was just me. Like I didn't have an agent or anything to it. Somehow, I guess I caught the attention of the guy that books it, Chris Mazzilli, and he saw it and he's like, "It's really good. You're really funny. You have great stage presence. I'll definitely have you on the show, but I want to see a different video where you're talking about, more personal stuff, because the set I sent him was a great set, but like I did a subway joke. I think there was a joke about the weather and maybe like something else generic in there. And I was like, I get that. And I was like, he's probably full of shit. And then I really had a set at Gotham that night in like their downstairs room. And I'm walking out. It was a terrible show. It was like an animal rescue fundraiser, which is a good thing, but for some reason those crowds are always terrible. So I'm walking out of the downstairs room, kind of dejected, and then Chris Mazzilli sees me, and he's like, "Joe," and then he just reiterated everything he said, and was like, "I definitely like you, and I want to see a different video." And I was like, "Okay, you got it." So that was like 2014, I think, and maybe like somewhere in the like 6 to 10 months later range. I got another video, and it was a great set, but I had set my camera up on a table, and for some reason, every time the server went by, my camera just wobbled back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, damn it to hell. And I showed it to my girlfriend, and I'm like, do you think I could send this to a guy who books a TV show? And she actually was like, yeah. I was like, all right. And I sent it, and I never heard back. And I'm like, damn it. And then another like 6 months passed, and I got a very, not like the greatest set, but it was like a very crisp set, and it was all like very, personal material.
Mm-hmm.
At one of the clubs on Long Island. It was like a perfect 11-minute set, and I sent it to him. And then you had to go back and forth. And I'm like, hey, check out my video. Blah, blah, blah. Nope, but I will. Okay, sure. And then maybe 2-3 months later, he finally emails me back. All right, watch the video. You're passed, but not for this season. Next season. And you're like, ho, ho, ho. So more time passes. And then when did I finally ended up doing it in September 2016. And they hit you up literally like the week before. And like, hey, you're available next week to do Gotham Comedy Live? And you're like, you're in the middle of like 5 other things. You're already booked on like 2 free bar shows. And you're like, yeah, of course, I'll just cancel everything. And then you go to do it. And then they don't care what you do on the show as long as you don't do anything offensive. Because it's not, network TV, so you can curse, you can be dirty. Not that I really, I think maybe I said 1 F-bomb or 2 tops. I was a little disappointed with the people said it was a good set and a good show. I thought I'd been hyped up for that. They're like, it's such a great audience. They know what's up. And I was like, yeah. And then half the crowd was like comics. That came to support their friends. And I'm like, well, this is not a recipe for success.
Oh, man.
A couple people came to see me, a couple of comics who I didn't like were in the crowd. It was still fine, and it was still a cool experience. Oh, and the best part was Paula Poundstone was hosting.
Oh.
And clearly completely forgot my name. And for some reason brought me up as Jumpin' Joe Pontillo. So never. But yeah, but it was fine. Good set, good credit. And the best part, Ben, is that it wasn't live anymore. So it didn't air for like 6 months.
Jeez.
So finally, like spring of 2017, it aired. But it was cool. Like a couple comics saw it and they were like, great job. And then, a couple people from like high school that I hadn't heard from in a million years saw it by accident. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. People on Twitter saw it. So, it was like cool for like 10 seconds. But yeah, other than telling me what they want to see in a tape, there was no real like telling me what to do on the show. It was kind of just, do whatever feels right.
I just think that is just hilarious because I interviewed on this show Eddie Brill,
who I became friendly with after he stopped booking Letterman.
Yeah, because he's a good dude, and so we had I'm gonna have him going again, but it's like, and he was telling me about how he was helping the acts put together the set, but the thing was, when he was describing it, it was very constructive.
Right.
It was like he wanted to help the comic be better on the show. Some other people that I've run across that shall remain nameless. They didn't do it to me, but they did it to. I rode to a couple of places with a couple of other comics that I knew to support them on their spots, and I'm watching them, the advice that they're getting, and I'm sitting there going, "Is he trying to make him bomb on the show? Because this advice sucks." It's like, and at the time, I had been doing comedy 10 years, so I understood what when you're 10 years in, you're funny. Okay, you're a good comic. Right. You're a pro. You've mastered the basics in the craft. You know what you're doing. So when someone's giving you bull crap advice, you know what it sounds like. And he's telling the guy some of the dumbest stuff I've ever heard in my life. And the guy's like, "Yeah, sure." We looked at each other like, "Get the F out! I'm not doing none of that crap." And he goes out, ignores the guy, does none of what he says, blows the place open, and the guy goes, See? He's like, we're in the car going, yeah, we saw none of the stuff that you asked her to do was applicable, nor did it work. It was just some of the dumbest. I mean, I've never seen advice. I understand a lot of these dudes and these ladies want to make sure that they protect their position. They got a job to do and they want to keep their job.
Sure.
But don't
and they have
F
to feel
up
like
the
they're bringing
sets.
something to the table.
Yes, but don't mess I mean, even if just give generic, yeah, go out there and, punch it up, give it to them good. And hey, let's give the generic. Nobody's paying. Nobody hears what you're saying to the comic, but this guy and the person, well, actually it was two people. The people I was talking about, who shall remain nameless. I mean, they're good. They're smart with the craft as far as everything that does not involve the actual performing of comedy, right?
Yeah.
They're good at everything else, just not that. And fortunately, they've moved on to other things in the business and no longer touch comedy anymore because that was horrible. Worst advice I've ever. Now,
speaking of feedback, did you ever have the pleasure of auditioning at the comic strip in New York City?
Yeah.
Well, when you put it like that.
No shade, but go ahead.
Yeah, I did it a couple times when I first started, and they're both honestly good. Well, one was an okay experience. Like I had like a mass set, but got like decent feedback. And it was still when they put the comics up like in the middle of like the primetime show. Mm-hmm. So no matter what, you were doing a cool spot on a pro show. And the second time I did it, well, for me, being a year and a half for 2 years in the comedy, felt I killed. And I'm feeling all good, confident, and I'm like, hell yeah! And then the person comes up to me and they're like, okay, so what did we talk about last time? And I was like, excuse me? And just totally trashed my set. And I was like, okay, that's good. Then I go back a couple of years later, and they had changed it so that you went up after the show ended. Like the main show ends, most of the audience leaves except for a few people who hate themselves. And then the host of the show is to be like, all right, we're bringing up your auditioners now. And so I went first, and I go up, and I'm only like, whatever I was, like 4 years in or 5 years in. And I do as well as you can do. And like the host is like, oh, great job. And then the guy in the kitchen comes out and he's like, that was not an easy set. You did great. And I'm feeling good. And then the booker comes up to me and he's like, hey, how long you been doing comedy? I was like, 5 years. And he goes, how much do you get on stage? I'm like, pretty much every night. He goes, oh, well, you tell a lot of old jokes. And I was like, what? And I'm thinking he's talking about like, I'm telling like vaudeville jokes on stage or something. And he goes, I don't know. A lot of them sound like jokes that you would like tell if you had like just started doing comedy. And I was just like, it was like I got punched in the face. And I was like, wow. And I didn't know what to say. So I was just like, well, I love the club. But that was like the worst thing ever. But then even at the time you hear it, you're like, oh my God, do I suck? And then you're like, no, I don't suck. I just get rid of a couple jokes. And I knew what jokes he was talking about. I was still doing like dumb jokes about like, I look like Ray Romano, blah, blah, and or some like basic stuff about like my family. And I just, cut out a couple things. And I felt like after that point is when I started progressing more quickly, like as a performer. But, sometimes you need to be told that you're not good, I guess, or even if it's inaccurate, you're like, well, now I got to prove that guy wrong.
I mean, I remember when I had to stop doing the I look like Ray Romano jokes. I had to get that out of my head as well. Because nobody was buying it.
The best was, I remember one time some older comic came up to me. He's like, that's a funny joke. I can't even remember what the joke was. It was probably mildly offensive, but the guy was like, it was good. You should do like an impression of him too. And I'm like, no.
Now I
Do
got.
you know,
Go ahead.
remember that we actually worked together once many years ago?
We worked together once.
Yes. We met once in real life.
Well, how? Good Lord, what was that? 1971.
Yeah, we were on the docks. No, it was the Spaghetti
Oh
Warehouse.
my God. Okay,
Yeah.
if you said Spaghetti Warehouse, absolutely.
Probably near the end of that place.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, I was probably too busy contemplating jumping out a window at that point.
Yeah, I felt like you were admitting to that, which was a funny gig. I don't know if the people who book it are still alive. That's how long ago it
Hold a second.
was.
Did you come down with another guy from New York?
Yeah, I came down with Angry Bob, who I used to be friends.
Oh, go yeah, Bob. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Now I'm there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Bob Carbo. Yeah.
I was hosting for no money.
Everyone was doing something for no money.
Just to get in. And I think, did they not even give you free food? They gave you 15% off.
I forgot what it was because not to brag, but I didn't have to pay. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Some people get HBO specials. I get free food at the Spaghetti Warehouse. Not to brag.
You can still get free food there. That's my question.
Well, it's a rock club now, so no.
Damn, it's a good idea. Good concept, Spaghetti Warehouse.
That was one of the things that used to crack me up because that was in my one-nighter phase.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I would go, look, I just need to fill this calendar out. I don't want to. I don't want to sit at home. All right, I'll be there. But that was an interesting place for those of you listening. Joe was referencing a place called the Spaghetti Warehouse, as he said, which was literally a restaurant that sold spaghetti and chicken parm, and it was a room in the back. It held about 60 people, and they
in the
did,
heart of Philadelphia.
Yeah, they did shows back there. Here's the funny thing, Joe. When they started doing the Spaghetti Warehouse, this is before my year or so there, when I would go there on a regular basis, the place was packed. I mean, have to reposition your body to get to the stage packed.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, man, whenever I have a Saturday when I need to fill a date or whatever, I could this is going to be great. Then it died down into nothing. But and by the time you showed up.
Yeah, I feel like I got asked to do it 3 more times. And every time I either was booked or I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
That is a long... Because the thing is, I remember when I started doing it, a friend of mine called me up and he goes, man, you got to go to this place. I'm like, he goes to Spaghetti Warehouse. I'm going, are you Joe? I was waiting for the bit. You know what I mean? I was waiting for him. I thought he was setting me up for something. There was going to be some kind of prank. I'm like, dude, if I show up at this place and it's not a club, I'm going to kick you in the throat. You understand what I'm saying?
It's actually a warehouse where they're transporting spaghetti.
I'm telling you, I was waiting. I'm sitting there going, I told these guys I was like, I was waiting to open the door and have them go, gotcha, jackass. I was waiting for that. Because those guys that I was hanging out with at the time would do crap like that. I'm like, guys, I'm working, I'm rehearsing, I'm working on some stuff. I don't have time for you little dopey ass jokes here. And in the beginning it was great, and I probably washed that section of my life out of my mind.
Sure.
That's probably what the heck happened. But I got to ask you about this because I need to know about this, my friend. Delete your account on Amazon. I need to understand this whole process. I need to know what the
heck. You need to know how to delete your account, or you need to know what brought me to create that.
Well, actually, yes. Okay. What made you create that? How'd you get it on Amazon? How'd you put it together? How was it filmed? Help a brother out. Tell me what you did. I'm curious.
Okay, so it was quite a process. I 2 different times I did quote unquote tapings. The tapings where you hype up your friends and family to come see you or whoever, and yeah, I'm recording something. Watch out. And neither time did I end up doing anything with it. I was just like, this isn't good enough. There was problems with the second recording. And then finally, I guess it was sometime in 2017, I was like, I should probably do an hour. I should probably do it, put it to video. Long overdue. I've been at it for 12 years. And I was like, it's time. So I forget exactly how I had a couple ideas. I think my two ideas for the name was delete your account. And I rigorously searched the internet to make sure no one had done that yet. I was like, it's perfect because some of the jokes are like social media themed. And I think my other idea was an hour of shit. I was going to, which might be my second hour. We'll see. Or delete your account again. Who knows? So I came up with that. And then at Governor's on Long Island, they had opened a little room on the side. The big room sits like 250, 300 people. Mm-hmm. The little room sits like 60 people. I scoped it out. I was like, you know what? A, I could fill this. And B, I could probably be left alone in here. Because I told them what it was, but they still treated it like it was a real show. So there were servers going in and out. Mm-hmm. But because I had two cameras going, we kept missing that. And in fact, one of the cameras, I guess, overheated or something during the taping and was out for 8 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to get ruined. And specifically during that 8 minutes, no servers came by because that would have ruined everything. Mm-hmm. And I had 3 microphones. I bought a lavalier mic for some reason, which was a complete waste because it was just in my pocket, going, yeah, how's it? And I really didn't do a lot of rehearsing for it, which was funny. There were a couple big bits that I, kept working into my sets that I'm like, all right, this is going to be in the taping. And the first 10 to 12 minutes are all about comedy, just about first time, I went on a big road thing and it went terribly. There's that and a couple other things, something about a comedy, just a lot of the worst things I could think about or talk about comedy wise are in the first 10, 12 minutes. And then I get more into my act, but it's more like an extended version of my act. Mm-hmm. I didn't sell it out, but it felt sold out. It was close enough. Mm-hmm. And it just, everything went perfect. I don't know. I couldn't believe it. And I knew it was good because I had to sit there and watch the whole thing. God knows how many times to make, sign off on everything. And I laughed each time. So I was like, well, this must not be horrible. So Amazon was just starting with their streaming service and Prime and all that. And I'm not lying when I say this. I genuinely cannot remember how I got it up there. But they were looking for content. And there was an easy way to do it at the time. Mm-hmm. All you had to do to get it approved to get on there was, you had to get captions done. So you had to pay it's $1 a minute. So you have to pay $60 to get captions. And the captions are all messed up. So you have to go back and edit them yourself, which is great. And then it was up. It dropped in February 2018. I originally got the idea because I worked with some guy from Florida who was like, yeah, I got a special on Amazon. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like something I could do. So that was my whole motivation. And the coolest thing is how many comedians would watch it and randomly come up to me and be like, I saw your special. It's fucking awesome. And I'm like, why? But that's the thing with comedy is to an extent, if you're good at comedy, or even if you're not that good at comedy, not to toot my horn, but, some of your fan base ends up becoming other comedians, they kind of end up rooting for you. And I'd like to think I don't have a lot of enemies in comedy, at least not on purpose. So,
not yet.
At least me-wise. Bookers.
It's somewhere a Family Guy. There's a giant chicken waiting to kick your ass.
There's several giant chickens, but I'm putting together a team to take on the giant chicken. one more job.
It's almost barbecue season anyway. You haven't have to do much shopping. So that is a pretty interesting. Now what's the now you do a lot of videos on YouTube and so obviously you shoot. I mean, obviously you shoot those yourself. Do you have someone that shoots them with you?
I used to have a friend that I grew up with that would film all my stuff. And he actually, him and another friend of mine from, when I was younger, they both filmed my special for free, which is extremely nice. and I'm probably terrible because I feel like I didn't do that much to pay them back. Maybe I bought them lunch or dinner. I don't know. Might have been a Red Lobster gift card in there somewhere. I can't remember.
Then they're putting on chicken suits right now.
But they can't afford two, so they're just going to jump into one.
Give me the suits, my time to fight, bro.
You get the front, I get the back. So yeah, they taped the whole thing and put it together. And but for years, I've had people filming stuff for me who, because we all, me and my friends went to film school or had like a fake background in film that all of us mostly did nothing with. I do comedy and make videos for you. I mean, I have done a couple of feature films, quote unquote, but that's a different story. And so I for years was the guy standing over people, being like, no, you got to do this, you got to do that. And then sometime in the last couple of years, I was like, I think I could edit all my stuff myself. So now I film everything with my phone. I edit it myself, and and I get stuff out more quickly. So. Then again, things have gone from like, I used to make 8 to 10 minute videos down to 4 to 6 minute videos. Now my videos are like 30 seconds to 90 seconds.
Well, you gotta think in terms of Instagram, Twitter. They gotta fit. You know what I mean? They got to fit on those things. But that's the funny thing about it is the simple fact that there's 13 megapixel cameras on your phone. You know what I mean?
It's insane. And it's like, why am I not taking advantage of this?
My last phone finally died because I'm one of those guys that I won't replace electronics or cars until they blow up. Right?
Yeah, I got to get at least 2 years. Give me 2 years out of this.
Man, I milked the crap out of it, and I got this new phone, and I looked at the specs and I went, "Good Lord, this is a phone." I said, I'm waiting for James Cameron to go, I'm going to do Titanic 2. Can I borrow your phone for a minute? I need to borrow that.
I'm actually doing Titanic versus Avatar, so I'm going to be a couple weeks.
Is this a 400? How long does this battery last? Is this an all-day battery? And it's just one of those weird things where, you see, because I'm looking at the quality of the things that I'm seeing online, like the video quality, and then when you look at the shadow, you can see the shadow of the person filming it, and they're just standing there with a damn phone in their hand, and I'm going, good Lord, that's incredible. It's an incredible thing.
It's really amazing. It's amazing and dangerous at the same time because now anybody could become a viral sensation. I mean, we're way past that. Or be a filmmaker. Yeah. But also it's good for people like you and me who I can't afford to pay a whole film crew and editing crew, but I can do it all myself and, drive myself insane for a couple months.
You're damn right. Because I've had the eye strain of chopping up something. I was like, you're going, I probably could have done this in 2 days. Didn't have to happen today. Now I've got this intense headache and my eyes hurt because I'm stupid.
What have I done to myself? But it was worth it.
Like, great. I need a dog now, but it's okay.
What better make it do?
I can't even. I'm going to have to take people's word for it that this is good.
Do they have dogs that can hear for you too? I'm in real bad shape.
They got it's like a weird thing when you see what they've actually trained animals to do for people the whole time, And when I see that, I'm going, now I'm starting to think that dog really did crap. Where it crapped on purpose. Because if you can help somebody across the street and make them back up when the cars are coming, and you're smart enough to know not to put the crap right there, you little bastard. That's all I'm saying. Dogs stink. Dogs stink. My friend Joe, this episode's going to be coming out in a few weeks. So plug something that you can talk that's more evergreen. Make it evergreen. Plug yourself in an evergreen fashion.
If you so my last video I just dropped might hit a little close to home. It's on YouTube, it's on Instagram, it'll probably be on Twitter soon. It's called 1-800-Podcast. Basically like a spoof of like, which I can't believe they still exist, like sex and party hotlines. Mm-hmm. Looking for fun and party, but now you call podcasters. And this sketch came to fruition between a conversation with me and my girlfriend, a tweet, and a Facebook status. This is how brilliant ideas come out of my head. So that's on YouTube, and I've got a bunch of other things. I know you saw the last one I did behind the scenes at Netflix.
Yeah.
It's a pretty solid one. So yeah, that's up. You can check out Delete Your Account on Amazon. It's free. I don't even think you need Prime. Mm-hmm. And if you happen to be in New York City around July 22nd, it'll come out before then, right?
It should be. Yeah. Should be.
Okay. I'm doing a show at Broadway Comedy Club Thursday, July 22nd at 7 p.m. And if you mention this podcast, you can get in for free. How about that?
And here's another thing. I'm going to link your website, and I'm going to link the special in the notes of this episode.
Well, thank you.
So I'll put a direct link in there. Joe, man, I appreciate you, man. I mean, I appreciate you giving me your time, man. I don't take that lightly when somebody gives me this amount of time, to do the show. I appreciate you, my brother. I want to thank you for coming by.
I will email you a bill. No, thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun, and I've always I think you were one of my first follows on Twitter.
Oh yeah, like 1935 we started following each other. I think we started following each other before it was called Twitter.
Yes. It was me, you, and Jack.
Yeah. And he pushed us out of the deal, bro. I want my money, man. I don't want none of that Bitcoin crap. I want cash, damn it.
I invented the retweets.
My brother, thank you very much. And of course, as always, we will harass each other.
Yes,
on Twitter.
I look forward to next time.
All right, take care, my brother.
Thanks for having me, man.
Take care.
Thank you. You too.
All right, now that was fun, wasn't it? Told you. What did I tell you? Have I failed you yet? No. Will I fail you? Also no. Thanks again for all your support. Much love to everybody, and I'll see you again next time. Take care.